Have you ever looked at your life and wondered, why am I here? Why do I keep struggling with the same patterns? The same pain? What if this life isn't the first time you felt this way? What if the choices you made long ago, maybe even in another lifetime, are still shaping your path today? The Buddha didn't just teach us how to live better. He showed us why we keep coming back, not as punishment, but as a reflection, a mirror of our mind. In this talk, we'll gently explore the mystery of rebirth and karma, not as distant beliefs, but as keys to understanding your life right now, and how to change your future. Starting from this breath, welcome to a journey inward. Let's begin. Have you ever noticed how life seems to move in circles? You try to move forward, but somehow, the same patterns come back, the same emotions, the same struggles. Maybe a new face, a different city, a different job, but the same inner feeling. I've been here before. It's as if life keeps repeating itself. Not just in the outside world, but inside us. We grow older, we move through stages, we leave things behind, but something doesn't feel new. Something feels familiar. The Buddha called this cycle samsara, the endless round of birth and death. Becoming and unbecoming, and whether we recognize it or not, we are all spinning in this wheel. We are born, we grow, we chase after happiness, we fear loss, we suffer, we die, and then it begins again. Not just once, but over and over. This idea can feel strange, even uncomfortable, especially for those of us raised in a culture that teaches life is a one-time journey, a beginning and an end. But the Buddha saw deeper. With great compassion and clarity, he taught that what we call this life is only one page in a very long book. And the story doesn't start here, nor does it end here. You are not just the child of your parents. You are the continuation of your own mind, your choices, your actions, your intentions. What you did before has brought you here. And what you do now will shape what comes next. There is no need to believe blindly. The Buddha never asked for faith without understanding. Instead, he invited us to look carefully at our own experience. Why do some people seem to be born into ease, and others into hardship? Why do some have a natural tendency toward kindness, while others struggle with anger or fear? Why are some drawn to the spiritual path, even from a young age, while others never even think to ask these deeper questions? From the Buddhist view, these aren't accidents. They are the unfolding of karmic seeds, planted long ago. Just as a tree grows from a seed, our lives arise from the seeds we have planted, through our thoughts, words, and actions, across many lifetimes. And so the question isn't just, why am I here? The deeper question is, what have I carried with me into this life? You see, rebirth is not a punishment. It's not a reward, either. It is simply the natural unfolding of cause and effect. Karma means action. Every action leaves a trace. Not in some cosmic notebook, but in the fabric of our own mind. That's why the Buddha said, you are the owner of your karma. Whatever you do, you will inherit. This can sound heavy at first, but actually, it's liberating. It means you are not a victim. You are not at the mercy of some random fate. You are powerful, right now. With your next thought, your next breath, your next decision, you are shaping your future. But most of us forget. We go through life asleep, pulled by habits we don't understand, wanting things we don't truly need, reacting out of fear or desire. And so the wheel turns. Birth, suffering, death, rebirth. That's why the Buddha didn't just teach philosophy. He taught awakening. To awaken is to see clearly. To realize that everything you chase outside yourself, pleasure, success, status, even love, is temporary. It will pass. And if you build your happiness on what changes, you will suffer when it leaves. The deeper happiness is not in chasing, but in knowing who you are. Knowing what is real and what is illusion. Knowing that you have the power to stop the wheel, if you are willing to look inward. But what does that look like? Practically? It starts with noticing. Noticing your mind. Noticing your tendencies. Noticing what rises up when you're angry or lonely or afraid. You don't have to fix it right away. Just notice. That's the beginning of insight. Then comes responsibility. We often hear the phrase, "You only live once." But the Buddha would say, "You live again and again, until you understand." Responsibility isn't guilt, it's power. When you understand that your actions echo across lifetimes, you begin to live more consciously. You stop blaming the world and start turning the mirror inward. And as the mirror clears, you begin to see, this pain you carry didn't start here. This longing didn't start here. Neither did this joy, this openness, this intuition. You begin to sense the thread of your own becoming, woven through lifetimes. Not as a fantasy, but as a subtle memory in the heart. You may walk into a temple and feel as if you've been there before. You may hear a chant in an ancient language and feel tears rise. Without knowing why, you may meet a teacher and feel like you've known them forever. These are not accidents. They are signs, reminders. The past is not gone, it lives within you. Not to trap you, but to wake you up. So the real question is not, have I been here before? The real question is, what will I do now? Knowing that I have? Because each moment is a choice. Each moment is a chance to plant a new seed. Speak a kinder word, take a wiser step, and in that way, this life becomes sacred. Not because it's your only chance, but because it's your current chance. It is rare to be born as a human being. Rarer still to hear the Dharma. Rarest of all to feel a calling toward awakening. If you're listening to this, it's not random. Something in you has ripened. Something deep in your consciousness is ready to remember. So take a breath. Feel your presence. You have come a long way to be here. And there is still a long way to go. But you are not lost. You are not alone. This path has been walked for thousands of years by countless beings who woke up from the dream of samsara. And you can too. Begin not by changing the world, but by changing your relationship with it. Watch your thoughts. Guard your speech. Let your actions be guided by compassion. That is how we stop the cycle. That is how we begin again, not in suffering, but in freedom. Let this moment be the turning point. Let this life be the one where you choose, with clarity and love, to walk a different path. And the wheel can begin to slow. If rebirth is the journey, then karma is the wind that carries us. Karma means action, but more than action, it means cause and effect. What we do, say, and even think, plants seeds in the mind. These seeds don't vanish, they wait. Sometimes they blossom right away. Sometimes they wait years, or even lifetimes. But the law is clear. Every cause brings a result. Nothing is ever lost. Many people hear the word karma and think it means punishment. That's your karma, they say, when something bad happens. But the Buddha never used karma as blame. He used it as a mirror. Karma shows us ourselves. It's not a divine judgment. It's not a system of rewards and punishments from the outside. It's simply the unfolding of energy that we ourselves have put into motion. Think of it like this. Imagine every thought and word is like throwing a stone into a still lake. Ripples spread out. They touch the edges. And sometimes, they come back to you in ways you didn't expect. You may forget the stone, but the water remembers. Karma is like that. It follows us. Not as a shadow chasing us, but as our own mind carrying impressions forward. When the right conditions come together, those impressions arise again, not randomly, but precisely. You might wonder, why do bad things happen to good people? Why do some people suffer so deeply, even though they've done nothing wrong in this life? Or the opposite, why do some people seem to get away with terrible actions? The Buddha addressed this directly. He said that not all karma ripens in one lifetime. Some karma is immediate. You do something kind, and you feel joy right away. You speak harshly, and you feel pain that very night. But other karma is like a seed buried deep in the soil. It needs time, water, sunlight, and the right season. It may not show its fruit for years, or not even in this life. This is why the law of karma stretches beyond death. Because the mind continues, the body may fall, but the momentum of the mind, the habits, tendencies, and energies, keep moving. Just as a flame passes from one candle to another, life passes into life, and with it, the karma we've built. This might seem overwhelming. If we've lived countless lives, how much karma must we be carrying? Surely it must be too much to bear. But here is the beauty. The past is heavy. Yes, but the present is powerful. The Buddha taught that even the darkest karma can be transformed through wisdom, through mindfulness, through compassion. A single drop of clear water can begin to purify a dirty pond. One moment of sincere reflection, one act of forgiveness, one honest vow to stop harming and start helping, can change the direction of an entire life. Even many lives. So the question is not, what karma do I have? The deeper question is, what karma am I creating now? Every day, you're planting seeds. Seeds of fear, or seeds of love, seeds of ignorance, or seeds of awakening. You don't need to know every action from every past life. You just need to be mindful of what you're planting in this one. Let's make it practical. When you feel anger rise, and you don't speak it, you've changed karma. When you feel the urge to gossip, and you stay silent, you've changed karma. When you feel hurt, but you choose to forgive, you've broken a cycle that may have lasted for centuries. Karma isn't about the past. Karma is about the present. The past has shaped this moment. Yes, but this moment is yours. And that means the future is yours too. This is why the Buddha emphasized intention. Two people can do the same action, but with different minds, and create different results. One gives money to be admired. Another gives out of pure compassion. The outside looks the same, but the inner karma is completely different. In Buddhist practice, this is why we train the mind, not to become saints overnight, but to gradually purify our intentions, to notice when we're acting from fear, or craving, or ego, and to gently return to kindness, clarity, and humility. When we act from clarity, the karma that follows is peace. When we act from confusion, the karma that follows is restlessness. And when we keep acting from the same patterns, lifetime after lifetime, the same types of experiences arise until we learn. That's why karma and rebirth are deeply linked. Karma is the engine, rebirth is the road, and the driver? That's you. You may not remember your past lives. Most of us don't, but you don't need memories to know their effects. Look at your tendencies. What are you drawn to? What are you afraid of? What are your talents, your weaknesses, your strange unexplainable habits? These are the footprints of old karma walking with you. Sometimes, karma manifests as a physical condition, a body that's prone to illness, or a mind that struggles with anxiety. Other times, it appears in relationships, people you feel instantly close to, or those who trigger deep reactions. These are not random. These are karmic meetings, arriving to help you learn, heal, or complete something unfinished. And yes, some karma is painful. The Buddha never denied that. He said, if you want to know your past, look at your present. If you want to know your future, look at your present. But pain is not punishment. Pain is a teacher. When you meet suffering, ask, what is this showing me? Maybe it's asking you to let go. Maybe it's asking you to open your heart, even when it's been broken. Maybe it's asking you to finally stop running and be still. Every karma carries a lesson, and if you learn it, you don't have to repeat it. That's how we stop being trapped in the wheel. Not by erasing all past karma, that's impossible, but by meeting it with wisdom, by living differently now, There's a story of a monk who was terribly sick. Lying in pain, unable to meditate, his teacher said to him, "Don't resist your karma. Use it, let it purify you." And that monk, through simply being present with his pain, not judging, not fleeing, attained great peace. Even liberation. That's the power of mindful living. Even in difficulty, you can awaken. Even in pain, you can plant freedom. But this takes courage. It takes patience. And it takes love, not just for others, but for yourself. Forgive yourself for the mistakes of the past, even those you cannot remember. And dedicate yourself to doing better now. That is the essence of karma practice. No action is too small. No moment is wasted. When done with awareness, everything becomes the path. Washing a dish, speaking a kind word, sitting with your breath. Every moment lived with compassion cuts through countless lifetimes of confusion. And slowly, the seeds of suffering dry up. The mind becomes lighter. The heart becomes free. Not all karma ripens at once. Some seeds take time. But don't be discouraged. The good you do today is not lost. It will meet you again, on some future road. Perhaps when you need it most. The Buddha said, "Not even a single drop of goodness is ever wasted." So plant seeds now. With each thought, each step, each breath. This is how we shape not only this life, but the lives to come. This is how we begin to move. Not in circles, but forward, toward peace, toward truth, toward freedom. Let your life become that movement. Let this moment be the turning. You are more powerful than you know. You are the heir of your karma. And today, you are writing your future, one breath at a time. We live in a world of moments, one after another, like beads on a string. But each moment is not isolated. It is connected, woven into a vast, invisible tapestry of causes and effects. Right now, you are sitting or walking or lying down. You are hearing these words. And none of this is random. The room you're in, the thoughts in your mind, even the device in your hand, these are not just coincidences. They are fruits, the ripening of seeds planted long ago. Some in this life, some in lifetimes you may not even remember. But the results are here. Now, this is the truth of karma. Seen over time, not just in the span of days or years, but across lifetimes. The Buddha taught that the mind is not destroyed at death. What continues is not a permanent soul, but a stream of consciousness, shaped by everything we've done, said, and thought. That stream carries seeds, and those seeds ripen when the conditions are right. In this way, the past is not behind you. It is within you. The kindness you offered in another life may be returning now as the love someone shows you unexpectedly. The harm you caused in another time may be returning as a situation that seems unfair or painful. And yet, everything is just the law of cause and effect unfolding. There's no need to fear this. In fact, it's deeply empowering, because if the past has shaped the present, then the present is shaping the future. Let's pause with that truth. The present moment is not small. It is vast. It is alive with potential. Each thought is a seed. Each intention is a direction. Each action is a message you are sending into the future. Imagine a garden. If you plant thorn bushes, you will not be surprised when you get scratched. If you plant roses, you will not be surprised when beauty blossoms. The garden is neutral. It simply grows what you give it. Your mind is like that. Your life is like that. And this is why awareness matters so much in the Buddhist path. Without awareness, we plant unconsciously. We react from habit. We move from fear. We grasp at pleasure. We push away discomfort. And each time we do, we reinforce old seeds, many of them painful. But when we wake up, we begin to plant differently. With mindfulness, with compassion, with clarity. And the beautiful truth is this: you don't need to destroy the old seeds. You only need to stop watering them. The Buddha used the image of fire. Karma is like fire. It burns because it has fuel. But if you stop adding fuel, it dies down. So too, painful patterns will lose their power when you stop feeding them with new reactions. For example, let's say someone insults you. The old pattern might be to lash out, to defend, to build resentment. That creates more karma. But if you pause, if you breathe, if you feel the pain without reacting, you are stopping the wheel. You are planting peace where there would have been conflict. This is not weakness. This is mastery. And it doesn't happen in dramatic moments. It happens in small choices. The thoughts you entertain, the words you choose, the silence you allow. These are where the future is made. The Buddha described 3 kinds of karma: past karma, present karma, and karma we're creating now that will ripen in the future. Past karma is what has already ripened. You cannot undo it, but you can understand it. You can meet it with wisdom. And in doing so, you stop making it worse. Present karma is what you are doing now. This is where your power lies. Future karma is what will come from today's seeds. This is where your hope lives. If you want to understand your past, look at your life right now. And if you want to shape your future, look at your mind right now. What are you planting? Are you planting seeds of anger or seeds of patience? Seeds of greed or seeds of generosity? Seeds of confusion or seeds of clarity? You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be sincere. Each moment is a chance to shift direction, to choose the brighter path. This is how karma becomes a path of freedom, not fate. Some people think karma means everything is predetermined. But the Buddha rejected that. He said karma is not destiny. It is cause and effect. And because causes can change, effects can change. A person with heavy karma can become awakened in this life. A person with great merit can fall into darkness. Everything depends on how we use the present moment. And this is why mindfulness matters so deeply. When you are aware, you can choose. When you are asleep, you repeat. Most of us live on autopilot. We react the same way. We think the same thoughts. We chase the same pleasures. And then we wonder why things feel stuck. But when you bring awareness into your life, even a little, things begin to shift. You start to notice the moment before you act. You start to feel the tug of habit, and choose not to follow. You start to see that everything arises and passes. And in that space, you find freedom. There's a teaching in Buddhism called the 3 times. It says there are only 3 realities: the karma of the past, the experience of the present, and the potential of the future. Everything else is story. This is not just philosophy. It's a call to live differently. Instead of blaming the past, bless it. It brought you here. Instead of fearing the future, plant it. It begins with your next breath. And instead of wasting the present, honor it. It is the doorway to all transformation. So if you're carrying pain, remember, it's a fruit, not a punishment. It came from seeds, and it can be healed. If you're experiencing joy, receive it fully. It's the return of goodness. And it too can be shared. Nothing you experience is meaningless. Every joy, every sorrow, every challenge, every grace, it is all part of a great unfolding. And the more you live with this awareness, the more your life becomes a field of awakening. You may not see the results right away, but trust that the seeds are working underground. Sometimes, it takes years to see the fruit. Sometimes, the fruit ripens in the next life. But know this: not a single act of love is ever lost. Not a single moment of clarity is ever wasted. The universe remembers. Your mind remembers. And one day, when the time is right, you will walk into a moment that feels like a blessing you didn't earn, and you'll realize it was a seed you planted long ago. Keep planting. Keep walking. Keep returning to the present. This is how karma becomes not just a law, but a path of awakening. This is how the past loses its chains. This is how the future becomes light. And this is how your life, right now, becomes sacred. One of the most profound questions people ask when they hear about rebirth is this: if there's no permanent self, then what exactly is reborn? The Buddha's teaching is unique in this regard. Unlike many traditions that describe a soul, something eternal, unchanging, traveling from life to life, Buddhism offers a different view. A subtle view. One that requires us to look very closely at our own experience. The Buddha taught anatta, the doctrine of non-self. He said that what we take to be I or me is not a fixed thing. It is a process, a collection of changing elements: body, feelings, perceptions, thoughts, consciousness. These are the 5 aggregates, and they're all in motion. There is no unchanging core inside you, no eternal essence. What we call self is simply the name we give to a constantly changing stream. So when the body dies, and the mind no longer functions in this form, what continues? Not a soul, not an identity, but a momentum. Think of it like this. Imagine a flame being passed from one candle to another. The second flame is not the same as the first, but it's not entirely different either. It's a continuation. Or picture a wave rising in the ocean. It has shape, it has motion, it has energy, but you can't point to the exact place where the wave begins or ends. And you can't say the wave is separate from the ocean. It is made of movement, of conditions. Your mind is like that wave. Each moment of consciousness arises based on causes and conditions. And when one moment ends, the next arises, conditioned by the one before it. This stream of consciousness doesn't stop at death. It continues, seeking new conditions to arise again. New body, new form, new identity. But the stream is still there, carrying the traces of everything that came before. You might call this karmic continuity. It is not a person being reborn. It is the energy of craving, attachment, intention, identity, still in motion. This is not easy to grasp, because we are so used to thinking of ourselves as someone. But take a moment to really reflect. Who are you? Are you your body? It has changed since birth. It will change again. Are you your memories? They shift, fade, distort over time. Are you your personality? Even that evolves. So what is constant? The Buddha would say, nothing is constant. And yet, there is continuity, not in a static identity, but in a flowing process. This idea may feel unsettling at first. No self? No soul? Then what is the meaning of life? But look deeper. This teaching is not meant to confuse. It's meant to free. If there is no permanent self, then you are not trapped. You are not limited by your past. You are not bound to an unchangeable nature. You are a process, which means you can be transformed. You are not a fixed flame, you are fire. And fire can move, change, grow, or be extinguished. This is why meditation is so powerful. It allows you to observe this truth directly. When you sit quietly and watch your thoughts come and go, you begin to see it for yourself. There is no thinker behind the thoughts. Just thought arising, just sensation arising, just emotion arising. And when you don't cling to them, when you don't identify with them, they pass. This is insight, and this is freedom. Because the thing that drives rebirth is not the body, or even the mind, it is clinging, grasping, the deep, unconscious urge to exist, to become, to be something. When that craving is present, the mind continues seeking, even after death. But when that craving ceases, when there is no more grasping, the cycle ends. That's nirvana, the end of becoming, the end of rebirth. Until then, the stream continues, not as a punishment, but as a natural flow. Let's look at it from another angle. Imagine you light a stick of incense. The smoke rises, it moves, it twists in the air. Each curve of smoke is different, but it all comes from the same burning point. Each movement of the mind is like that, shaped by the fire of karma. drifting in the space of causes and conditions. Now, what happens when the incense is finished? The smoke fades. The fire goes out. Nothing is carried on. But if you light another stick, a new trail of smoke begins, different, yet connected by the act of lighting. That's how rebirth happens. The stream doesn't stop. It simply flows forward. And yet, this process is not mechanical. It is intimate. It reflects the very choices we make in each moment. If you fill your mind with greed, anger, and delusion, the momentum of that energy carries forward into this life and beyond. If you fill your mind with generosity, patience, wisdom, the stream begins to purify. So you see, even though there is no self being reborn, the quality of mind matters deeply. Because the mind continues. And what kind of mind will awaken in the next life depends on what kind of mind you cultivate now. This is why the Buddha emphasized ethical living, not as a set of rules, but as a way to protect and shape the mind. When you live with right speech, right action, and right livelihood, you're planting wholesome conditions in your stream. When you meditate, you begin to observe that stream directly. And when you cultivate wisdom, you begin to see that the stream itself is empty, not meaningless, but without solid identity, empty of self, but full of possibility. This emptiness is not nihilism. It is openness. And in that openness, you can change, you can awaken, you can stop the stream from rushing blindly into the next life, and instead let it settle. Clear, still. Think of it like a river. Most people are swept away by the current. They don't know where it comes from. They don't know where it goes. They just get carried. But when you sit in meditation, you step out of the river. You stand on the bank. You observe. And as you observe, you understand. And when you understand, you stop struggling. That's the beginning of liberation. Because if there is no permanent self to protect, then there's no need to cling. If there is no soul to save, then there's no need to fear. There is only this moment, this breath, this awareness. And in that awareness, there is peace. So what is reborn? Not you, in the way you think, but your tendencies, your habits, your unresolved grasping, your unresolved love. And that's why the path is not about becoming someone new. It's about letting go of who you think you are. When the illusion of self falls away, what remains is clarity, not a blank space, but a luminous stillness. And from that stillness, compassion flows. Because when you no longer see yourself as separate, you begin to love without boundaries. You begin to live without fear. And eventually, you begin to die without clinging. That's the true gift of understanding rebirth, not to worry about past lives or future ones, but to realize the preciousness of this one, to live with awareness, to die with peace, and to know that the stream can end, not in darkness, but in light. Why were you born? This question might seem overwhelming, or even impossible to answer. But if you listen deeply, not just with your intellect, but with the stillness of your heart, you may begin to sense that this life has meaning beyond survival, beyond comfort, beyond just existing. In the teachings of the Buddha, your birth is not an accident. It is not a punishment. And it is not a reward. It is an opportunity. You were born because causes and conditions came together. Not just physical causes, your parents, your DNA, but mental causes, karma, intention, longing, a subtle clinging to life, to identity, to becoming. This clinging carried your stream of consciousness into a new body, a new world, a new name. But behind all that, beyond the surface of your personality, your habits, your history, there is something more essential. A quiet call to wake up. You were born to awaken. Not just to build a career. Not just to gather possessions. Not even just to love and be loved, though all of that can be beautiful. You were born into this human life because it is the perfect ground for awakening. Not too much suffering like the hell realms. Not too much pleasure like the heavenly realms. Just enough of both pain and joy to allow wisdom to grow. In this human body, you can reflect. In this human mind, you can choose. And in this human heart, you can open. That is why you were born. But most of us forget. We are born, and immediately we begin grasping. Grasping for identity, for approval, for security, for comfort. And as we grasp, we get lost in the very world that was meant to help us wake up. We forget who we are. We forget why we came. We chase things that never satisfy. We avoid pain at all costs. We live on the surface of life, always doing, rarely being. And yet, something inside us knows. Something inside you senses that this can't be all there is. That life is not just a series of distractions. That there is a deeper current running beneath your days. That is the voice of Dharma. That is the whisper of awakening. And the Buddha taught that to hear this voice, even once, is an immense blessing. Because it means that your past karma has ripened into clarity. It means that, out of countless births, you have arrived at a moment where you can remember. And that's where your real life begins. Not the life of chasing, but the life of choosing. Not the life of reactivity, but the life of wisdom. So what can you do about it? First, you can pause. Pause the busyness, the scrolling, the endless becoming. Pause, and return to your breath. This breath is your anchor to the present. And the present is the only place awakening can happen. Then, you can reflect. Ask yourself, not once, but often, what am I really doing with this life? Not in a harsh or judgmental way, but with deep sincerity. Am I living with awareness? Am I planting seeds of peace? Am I walking toward truth, or away from it? These questions are not meant to make you anxious. They are meant to awaken your inner compass. To remind you that this life is precious, fleeting, and profoundly meaningful. Next, you can begin to align your life with the path of awakening. Start with small steps. Bring mindfulness into your day, into your speech, your thoughts, your choices. Practice kindness, not as a performance, but as a way of purifying your own mind. Practice generosity, not just with money, but with time, attention, forgiveness. Practice letting go, not of everything, all at once, but of what no longer serves your heart. And most of all, practice seeing things as they are, not through the lens of craving, fear, or opinion, but through the clarity of presence. This is the path the Buddha walked. Not a path of dogma, or belief, or blind devotion, but of direct seeing. He didn't ask us to follow him blindly. He asked us to look for ourselves. To see that everything that arises due to causes and conditions. That nothing is permanent. That clinging leads to suffering. That freedom is possible. This is not philosophy. It is a mirror. It is a way of looking at your life, not from the outside, but from the heart. So when you ask, why was I born? You are really asking, what is this moment for? And the answer is always the same. This moment is for awakening. This breath is a doorway. This thought is a choice. This action is a seed. And you are not too late. You are not too far gone. You are not unworthy. You are exactly where you need to be to begin. Sometimes we look at our lives and feel regret. We think of years wasted, opportunities missed, mistakes repeated. But the Dharma is merciful. It doesn't dwell in the past. It lives in the present. And the present is always open. You don't have to undo your past. You just have to stop repeating it. You don't have to become someone else. You just have to stop clinging to who you think you are. And then, in the stillness beneath all that noise, you begin to feel something softer. A spaciousness. A peace that doesn't depend on anything. That's your true nature. Not a self. Not an ego. Not a story. But a luminous awareness, gentle, clear, compassionate. And that's what this life is for. To uncover that. To live from that. To die into that. When you live with that clarity, Your actions change. You stop harming. You start healing. You become a source of refuge, not just for yourself, but for others. And in doing so, you fulfill the deep purpose of your birth. Not to escape this world, but to meet it with wisdom. Not to deny your humanity, but to infuse it with compassion. Not to become perfect, but to become present. The Buddha said, "Rare is birth as a human being. Rare is the arising of a Buddha. Rare is the hearing of the Dharma." You have all three, so don't waste this life. You don't need to become a monk or nun. You don't need to give up your family, your job, your responsibilities. You just need to bring your heart into what you do. To wake up in the middle of your life, not after it's over. To live as if every moment matters, because it does. This life will pass. The body will age. The mind will fade. But the seeds you plant now will not be lost. They will bloom, in this life. Or the next. So plant well. Plant mindfully. Plant with love. You were born not to become someone, but to remember who you are before identity. You were born not to build a kingdom, but to dissolve your prison. You were born not to find happiness, but to realize that your very nature is happiness, when the grasping ends. Let that truth guide you. Let that stillness hold you. Let this life, this beautiful, painful, miraculous life, become your path, your practice, your offering, your return. Why do we keep coming back? Not just to life after death, but to the same emotions, the same patterns, the same suffering? Why does the wheel of samsara keep turning? The Buddha gave a radical answer, because of becoming. In Pali, the word is bhava, a deep urge in the mind to become something. To identify as someone, to cling to a sense of being this or that. It is subtle. It hides behind our goals, our dreams, even our fears. It fuels our desire to exist, to matter, to belong. And it is this very energy of becoming that drives rebirth. You see, we often think we suffer because of what we lack. Not enough love, not enough money, not enough certainty. But the Buddha said the suffering comes not from the lack, but from the thirst. The thirst to become, the thirst to be, and also, paradoxically, the thirst to not be. Both lead us in circles. A person wants to become rich, or loved, or famous, or even enlightened. That wanting pulls them forward. They build an identity around it. They make choices around it. And they become bound. Even wanting to become a better version of yourself can be a form of bondage. This doesn't mean we shouldn't grow. But it means that growth without awareness becomes just another trap. Because the mind that wants to become is always incomplete. It is always reaching forward, never resting. It says, when I get this, I'll be happy. When I become that, I'll be free. But happiness is not there. Freedom is not there. They are here, now, in this moment, in this breath. But the becoming mind doesn't believe that. It pulls you into the future, into fantasy, into comparison, into regret. It says, you're not enough. You have to be more. And so we chase. We chase relationships, status, experience, even spiritual experiences. We say, I want to become enlightened. But enlightenment is not a thing to get. It's the end of getting. It's the ending of becoming. That's why the Buddha said the path is not about becoming something. It's about letting go. Letting go of craving, of clinging, of the illusion of a solid self that needs to become anything at all. This is difficult to understand at first. We are conditioned to seek improvement, to strive, to fix ourselves. But the Dharma points in another direction. It says, you are not broken. You are not something to be fixed. You are something to be understood. When you understand how suffering arises, how the mind creates identity, clings to form, chases becoming, you start to see the whole machinery of rebirth. And when you see it clearly, you stop feeding it. You don't fight it. You don't destroy it. You simply stop giving it fuel. And in that stopping, There is peace. Not the peace of achievement, but the peace of surrender. Let me give you an image. Imagine a spinning top. It moves because it's been pushed. It keeps turning because of momentum. But if you don't push it again, it starts to slow. And eventually, it stops. The cycle of becoming is like that. Each time you grasp at identity, you push the top again. Each time you chase an idea of self, you spin it again. But when you start to observe instead of react, when you bring awareness instead of craving, you stop pushing. And the cycle begins to slow. That is the path to freedom. Not through effort, but through understanding. Not through becoming more, but through becoming less entangled. This is what the Buddha meant when he spoke of nibbana, the extinguishing of the flame. Not death, not annihilation, but the end of grasping. The end of becoming. The end of the I that needs to become. This is not a dull or blank state. It is radiant, luminous, alive. Because when the I drops away, what's left is just experience. Pure, immediate, undistorted. And in that space, love arises. Not the love that needs something, but the love that simply shines. Compassion arises, not because you want to be a good person, but because there's no separation. Wisdom arises, not from books, but from silence. This is why meditation is such a powerful tool. In meditation, you can begin to see the becoming mind. You sit, and the mind says, I want to feel calm. That's becoming. Or it says, I'm not doing this right. That's identity. Or it says, if I just get better at this, then, that's the future. But if you stay, just stay, with what is here, the breath, the sensation, the awareness, you start to loosen the grip. You see the thoughts rise. And you don't follow. You see the urge to become. And you don't feed it. And then, suddenly, there's a moment of stillness. Not because you achieved something, but because you stopped chasing. That stillness is a glimpse of freedom. And in that stillness, you remember, you were never separate. You don't have to become something to be whole. You are already the space in which everything arises and passes. This doesn't mean you stop living. You still eat, work, love, laugh, but you do so without clinging. You participate in life, but you are not bound by it. You become like a lotus, rooted in the mud, but untouched by it. And even when pain arises, you don't make it personal. You say, this is pain, and you let it move through. Even when joy arises, you don't grasp. You say, this is joy, and you enjoy it while it's here. This is the freedom of letting go. This is the freedom beyond becoming. And this freedom is not far. It is in this very moment. It is in this very breath. So let yourself be still. Let yourself not become. Let yourself just be. Not someone, not something. Just this. And in that simplicity, you'll find the truth. You were never a separate self. You were never a fixed identity. You were never a story. You were awareness, watching. You were the sky, not the clouds. You were the silence, not the noise. And when you live from that knowing, the whole world changes. Not because the world is different, but because you are no longer caught. You are no longer spinning. You are no longer seeking. You are home. And that, truly, is the end of becoming. So how do we stop coming back? How do we end the cycle of birth and death, not just physically, but mentally, emotionally, existentially? It begins with understanding, but it must end with practice. The Buddha didn't just explain suffering. He showed a way out. And that way is here. It begins not after death, but in the middle of this very life. In the middle of breath, sensation, confusion, clarity. In the middle of everything you already experience, if you're willing to wake up to it. This moment is the gate. Not next year. Not when life is perfect. Not when your mind is finally silent. Now. Because the habits that keep us circling are not in the heavens or in some distant karma. They are right here, in how you respond to your thoughts, your feelings, your fears, your cravings. So if you want to end the cycle, begin with seeing clearly, seeing how the mind moves, seeing how desire arises and leads to grasping, seeing how aversion arises and leads to pushing away, seeing how ignorance, the forgetting of presence, leads to being lost in stories. And then, little by little, moment by moment, choosing differently. This is the path of liberation, not a dramatic escape, but a deep, quiet shift. It begins with sila, virtue, the foundation of freedom. When you live ethically, you protect your mind, you reduce regret, you stop feeding the fires that keep the heart agitated. Not because someone is watching, but because your own mind becomes clear. The Buddha gave 5 simple trainings: to not kill, not steal, not engage in harmful sexuality, not lie, not intoxicate the mind. These aren't rules to control you. They're tools to free you. Each time you refrain from harming, you build peace. Each time you speak truthfully, you build trust. Each time you choose restraint over impulse, you strengthen clarity. That clarity leads to samadhi, concentration, the stillness of mind. When the mind is not scattered by desire or fear, it becomes steady. When it is steady, it can see. So we practice meditation, not to get somewhere, but to come back, again and again, to the breath, to the body, to this. You sit, you breathe, you notice. Thoughts come, you let them go. Sensations arise, you observe them. Emotions swell, you hold them gently. This is not suppression, it is intimacy. You are not escaping the world. You are meeting it, without clinging. And in that space, wisdom begins to grow. This wisdom is panya, the final jewel. It is not just knowing. It is seeing, directly, deeply, without filters. Seeing that everything you chase is impermanent. Seeing that everything you fear is impermanent. Seeing that even the you doing the chasing is impermanent. This is not a philosophy. It is a doorway. When you see impermanence clearly, you let go. When you see suffering clearly, you stop feeding it. When you see non-self clearly, you stop clinging to identity. And in that letting go, the cycle begins to unravel. You no longer need to become. You no longer need to resist. You no longer need to come back, because you are not leaving. You are here, fully. This is what it means to live now. Not as a fixed identity, but as a fluid awareness. Not as someone trying to win, but as someone ready to listen. Not as someone afraid to die, but as someone no longer afraid to live. Because when you live like this, awake, ethical, compassionate, then death loses its power. You don't fear it. You don't cling to it. You meet it as part of the path. The Buddha said, just as a flame goes out when its fuel is gone, so does the cycle end when craving ends. And that's what you're doing every time you practice. You are removing fuel. You are burning through illusion. You are living in such a way that when death comes, it finds you already free. And yes, this takes time. This takes honesty. This takes patience. But you don't have to wait for perfection. Every small act of awareness plants freedom. Every moment of restraint opens space. Every breath of letting go loosens the knot. And over time, something begins to shift. You stop identifying with pain. You stop chasing pleasure. You stop believing every thought. You stop building a self around your past. And in that simplicity, in that stillness, the whole cycle begins to fade. Not with drama, not with fanfare, but like a storm that slowly clears. A sky that slowly opens. A fire that burns itself out. And you are left with peace. Not the peace of avoidance, but the peace of seeing. This is the gift of the Dharma. Not that it gives you something, but that it takes away everything that blocks what's already true. The Dharma doesn't give you freedom. It shows you that you were never bound. So how do you live now? Live gently. Live honestly. Live with the awareness that each breath could be your last, and let that make you kind. Live with the humility that you are part of a vast web of causes and conditions, and let that make you compassionate. Live with the wisdom that clinging creates suffering, and let that make you free. You don't need to change the world. You just need to stop spinning your wheel. Stop running. Stop grasping. And when you do, even for a moment, you will feel something ancient and tender. The quiet joy of being enough. The deep stillness of coming home. And maybe, just maybe, you won't need to come back. Not because you're escaping life, but because you've finally learned to meet it fully, with no resistance. That is the end of becoming. That is the end of suffering. That is the end of the cycle. Not in death, but in awareness. Not in some distant future. But now. Right now. This is the path. This is your life. This is the moment to begin. So take a moment now. Let all the words you've heard today settle into silence. If these teachings stirred something in your heart, a question, a pause, a gentle ache to understand more, don't ignore it. That is the beginning of awakening. You don't need to fix everything. You don't need to escape your life. You only need to sit, breathe, and notice. Notice the craving. Notice the becoming. Notice how the mind runs, and how, in stillness, it softens. Try meditating, even just for a few minutes. Or if your mind feels restless, simply recite the Buddha's name, softly, sincerely. Namo Amitabha. Let each repetition be a thread that pulls you out of the cycle and back into presence. You don't have to come back again and again. You can wake up now. And when you do, even for a moment, you begin to live not from karma, but from clarity. So breathe gently, live simply, let go deeply, and walk this path with compassion, for yourself, and for all those still circling in the dark. Namo Amitabha Buddha.